The summer heat shimmered across the dusty plains of Willow Creek, Colorado, as Gabriella Northcott dismounted her horse, her eyes fixed on the peculiar sight before her, a small, weather-beaten cabin with its door wide open, revealing a young girl no more than 8 years old, hunched over a piece of fabric, struggling with needle and thread. It was 1878, 3 years since Gabriella had left Boston following the devastating fire that claimed her parents and their textile business. At 24, she had traded her life of privilege for one of independence in the West, establishing herself as a seamstress in a town 20 miles north. Today's journey to deliver fabrics to a neighboring settlement had led her down this unexpected path. "Hello there," Gabriella called softly, tying her horse to a post. The little girl's head shot up, revealing deep brown eyes set in a sun-freckled face. Her dark hair hung in 2 messy braids, and her fingers were pricked with tiny dots of blood from her sewing attempts. "I ain't supposed to talk to strangers," the child replied, but her eyes betrayed curiosity rather than fear. Gabriella approached slowly, her cream-colored traveling dress gathering dust at the hem. "I'm Miss Northcott. I work with fabric and thread." She gestured to the bundle the girl was struggling with. "That looks like quite a project." The girl's lips pressed together in frustration. "It's Pa's shirt. Tore it bad on the fence yesterday. I'm trying to fix it before he gets back with the cattle." Gabriella stepped closer, noticing the uneven stitches and knotted thread. Without thinking, she whispered, "She needs a mother's hands." "What you say, miss?" The girl looked up. Gabriella flushed, embarrassed that her thought had escaped her lips. "I was just thinking aloud. May I?" She held out her hand for the shirt. The girl hesitated before surrendering the garment. "I'm Lily Irwin. That's a beautiful name." Gabriella settled onto the porch step beside her, pulled a small sewing kit from her satchel, and began to work the needle through the torn fabric with practiced ease. "Where is your mother, Lily?" The girl's face clouded. "In heaven. 2 winters ago, fever took her." Gabriella's heart clenched. "I'm sorry." "Pa says I'm the lady of the house now," Lily said with a mix of pride and uncertainty, "but I ain't much good at being a lady." "Nonsense," Gabriella smiled. "You're brave to tackle such difficult mending. Your father must be proud. Guess so." Lily watched Gabriella's fingers move with fascination. "You make it look easy as breathing." "Years of practice," Gabriella replied, then looked up at the sound of approaching hoofbeats. A tall figure on horseback emerged from the tree line, broad-shouldered, with a weathered hat pulled low over his face. As he drew closer, Gabriella could make out a strong jaw shadowed with stubble and eyes the same deep brown as Lily's. He dismounted with the fluid grace of a man accustomed to hard work, his expression hardening as he spotted the stranger beside his daughter. "Lily," his voice was deep, questioning. "Pa," the girl jumped up. "This is Miss Northcott. She's fixing your shirt proper." The man approached cautiously, his hand resting near the pistol on his hip. "Wade Irwin," he said, tipping his hat slightly. "Don't recall inviting company." Gabriella stood, smoothing her skirts nervously. "Gabriella Northcott, Mr. Irwin." "I was passing through on my way to Riverbend when I saw your daughter. I'm a seamstress by trade and offered assistance." She held out the nearly completed shirt. No harm intended. His eyes narrowed, studying her face before shifting to the mended shirt. Something in his posture eased slightly. "Pa, she does it so neat," Lily exclaimed. "Look at them tiny stitches." Wade took the shirt, running a calloused thumb over the repaired tear. "Appreciate the help, Miss Northcott, but we managed just fine." "Of course." Gabriella gathered her things, sensing his dismissal. "I should continue my journey before nightfall." "It's getting late," Wade said gruffly, glancing at the setting sun. "Riverbend's another 2 hours' ride. Roads ain't safe for a woman alone after dark." Gabriella hesitated. "I'm sure I'll manage." "Pa," Lily tugged at his sleeve, whispering loudly enough for Gabriella to hear, "can't Miss Northcott stay for supper? She could teach me to sew proper." Wade's jaw tightened, but after looking at his daughter's hopeful face, he sighed. "You're welcome to stay for a meal, Miss Northcott. Leave at first light tomorrow." "I wouldn't want to impose. Ain't an imposition if I'm offering," he cut her off. "Just being neighborly." "Then I accept." Gabriella replied, trying to ignore the flutter in her stomach as his eyes met hers. Thank you. The cabin's interior was simple but clean, a main room with a stone fireplace, rough-hewn table, and 3 chairs. A curtain separated what Gabriella assumed was Wade's sleeping area, while a small ladder led to a loft where Lily likely slept. Wade moved with surprising efficiency in the small kitchen area, preparing a stew that had been simmering over the fire. Lily chattered excitedly, showing Gabriella her few possessions: a rag doll with button eyes, a book of fairy tales, and her mother's worn Bible. "Ma was teaching me my letters before she passed," Lily explained. "Pa tries, but he's awful busy with the ranch." Dinner was a simple affair: venison stew, cornbread, and coffee for the adults, milk for Lily. Wade spoke little, but Gabriella caught him watching her interactions with his daughter, his expression unreadable. After the meal, Gabriella insisted on helping with the dishes. As they worked side by side, Wade finally broke his silence. "You from around these parts, Miss Northcott?" "Boston originally. I came west after my parents died." She kept her voice even, though the memory still pained her. "I have a small shop in Silverdale now," he nodded. "Long way from Boston to Colorado." "Yes," she agreed, "but necessary." Later, as Lily prepared for bed, Gabriella offered to read from the fairy tale book. The girl settled against her, hanging on every word as Gabriella brought the stories to life with different voices for each character. From the corner of her eye, she noticed Wade watching from his chair by the fire. His face softened in the amber light. When Lily's eyes grew heavy, Wade carried her up to the loft. Gabriella heard him murmuring a good night before he descended. "You're good with her," he said quietly, pouring himself a small measure of whiskey. After a moment's hesitation, he offered her a cup. Gabriella accepted with a small nod. "She's a remarkable child. Her mama would be proud." A shadow crossed his face. "Catherine died of mountain fever." "Quick and cruel, nothing I could do." "I'm sorry," Gabriella said softly. "It's clear you're doing your best for Lily." Wade stared into his cup. "Some days I wonder if my best is good enough. She needs things I can't give her." "All children need is love, Mr. Irwin. That you clearly provide in abundance." He looked up, meeting her eyes. "Wade, just Wade." "Wade," she repeated, feeling a strange warmth spread through her that had nothing to do with the whiskey. Morning came too quickly. Gabriella dressed in the dim light before dawn, finding Wade already awake, cooking breakfast over the fire. "Thought you might want an early start," he said, sliding eggs onto a plate. "Thank you." She accepted the food, noticing Lily still sleeping peacefully in the loft. "I didn't want to wake her to say goodbye." Wade hesitated, then said, "We're heading into Silverdale ourselves next week. Need supplies." "My shop is on Front Street," Gabriella replied, understanding his unspoken invitation. "White building with blue shutters. Perhaps Lily would like to see it." Wade nodded, walking her to her horse after breakfast. As he helped her mount, his hands strong at her waist, their eyes met briefly. "Safe travels, Miss Northcott." "Gabriella," she corrected with a smile. "Gabriella," he repeated, the name sounding different in his deep voice. "Till next week, then." She rode away, feeling his eyes on her back, wondering at the strange twist of fate that had led her down this particular trail yesterday. True to his word, the following Saturday brought Wade and Lily to Silverdale. Gabriella looked up from her work at the jingle of the bell above her shop door, her heart skipping when she saw them enter, Lily practically bouncing with excitement, Wade looking uncomfortable but determined, hat clutched in his hands. "Miss Gabriella." Lily rushed forward, admiring the bolts of fabric and finished garments displayed around the shop. "Your store is prettier than anything." "Thank you, Lily," Gabriella smiled, then nodded to Wade. "Good to see you again." "Likewise," he replied, his eyes taking in the neat, colorful space. "Business looks good." "It sustains me," she acknowledged. "What brings you to town today besides visiting my humble shop?" "Seeds, tools, the usual," Wade said. "And Lily's been needing new clothes, growing like a weed." Gabriella looked at Lily's dress, faded calico, too short at the wrists and ankles. "I'd be happy to help with that." What followed was a delightful afternoon of measuring Lily for new dresses while Wade completed his errands in town. When he returned, Gabriella had already cut patterns for 2 everyday dresses and a Sunday best. "How much do I owe you?" Wade asked, reaching for his wallet. "The fabric and my time," Gabriella calculated. $8 for all 3, if that's agreeable." Wade looked momentarily taken aback. "That's more than fair." "I believe in honest pricing," she replied. "They'll be ready in 2 weeks." Wade cleared his throat. "Pastor's holding a barn raising and social next Saturday at the Miller place. Thought maybe, if you ain't too busy with your sewing." Gabriella felt color rise in her cheeks. "I'd be delighted to attend." The smile that broke across his face transformed him, softening the hard edges weathered by sun and grief. "I'll come fetch you at noon, then." After they left, Gabriella found herself humming as she worked, her fingers flying over the patterns for Lily's dresses. It had been so long since she'd felt this particular lightness in her chest, not since before the fire, before she'd locked away certain dreams in favor of survival. The barn raising brought the scattered community together, ranchers, townsfolk, and farmers all working side by side. Wade worked with the men, his strength evident as he helped raise massive beams. Gabriella joined the women preparing food, but her eyes continually sought him out among the workers. "You've caught Wade Irwin's attention," observed Mrs. Peterson, the blacksmith's wife. "First time I've seen him at a social since Catherine passed." "We're just acquaintances," Gabriella demurred. "Hum." The older woman smiled knowingly. "He's a good man. Stubborn as the day is long, but good." As the day turned to evening, lanterns were lit and fiddle music filled the newly constructed barn. Couples took to the floor for dancing while children played games in the corners. Wade approached Gabriella, looking freshly washed, his dark hair still damp. "Would you care to dance, Miss Northcott?" "I thought you'd never ask, Mr. Irwin," she replied with a smile, placing her hand in his. He led her to the floor, his hand warm at her waist. He moved with unexpected grace for such a large man. "Have to warn you, I'm out of practice." "You're doing fine," she assured him, aware of curious glances from others. "Where's Lily?" Playing with the Miller children. "Girl needs friends her own age." As they circled the floor, Gabriella felt the tension in his body gradually ease. "You don't do this often, do you, dancing?" He shook his head. "Not since Catherine." "She must have been wonderful," Gabriella said gently. "She was," he acknowledged, his eyes darkening with memory. "Took me years to build up the courage to court her. Her father owned the mercantile in my hometown, thought I wasn't good enough for her." "And yet you won her heart." A small smile touched his lips. "Was stubborn then, too." The music slowed, and without conscious thought they moved closer together. "What brought you west, truly?" Wade asked, his voice low near her ear. Gabriella hesitated. "After the fire. There was nothing left in Boston. The business, the house, my parents all gone in one night." She took a breath. "I had an aunt in Denver who took me in, taught me to use my sewing skills to make a living. When she passed last year, I decided to find my own place." "Takes courage," Wade said, "starting over alone." "As does raising a daughter alone," she countered. Their eyes met in understanding, and something shifted between them, recognition of kindred spirits who had faced loss and continued forward. The weeks that followed saw Gabriella becoming a regular visitor at the Irwin Ranch. She delivered Lily's finished dresses personally, then stayed to teach the girl basic stitches and eventually more complex sewing techniques. Wade often watched them from the doorway, a thoughtful expression on his face. One sunny afternoon in early fall, Wade invited Gabriella to ride with him to check fence lines while Lily played at a neighbor's farm. "You've become quite the horsewoman," he observed as they rode side by side across a meadow dappled with late wildflowers. "I've had an excellent teacher," she smiled, recalling his patient instructions during previous rides. They stopped at the edge of a small creek, dismounting to let the horses drink. Wade seemed preoccupied, picking up stones and skipping them across the water's surface. "Something troubling you?" Gabriella asked, settling on a sun-warmed boulder. He remained standing, hat pushed back on his head. "Been thinking about Lily starting school soon." "That's wonderful news," Gabriella said. "She's bright, she'll thrive." "Means riding into town every day or boarding her during the week." He frowned. "Don't like either option much." "What about moving closer to town?" Wade shook his head. This land's been in my family for 20 years. My father claimed it, built it up from nothing. His eyes scanned the rolling hills. It's Lily's birthright. Then perhaps a tutor, Gabriella suggested. Can't afford one, he sighed, then turned to face her directly. Unless. She prompted when he fell silent. Wade took a deep breath. Gabriella, you know I'm not one for fancy words. I'm a simple man, but these past months with you coming around, Lily adores you. And I her, Gabriella said softly, her heart beginning to race. And I. He removed his hat completely, crushing the brim in his hands. I find myself thinking about you even when you're not there, wondering what you'd think about this or that, looking forward to seeing your face. Gabriella stood slowly, drawn toward him by the raw honesty in his voice. I know it's too soon perhaps, he continued. And I ain't offering much, just a hard-working man, a ranch with good prospects, and a little girl who needs. He swallowed hard, who needs a mother's hands and heart. Wade, she whispered, close enough now to see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. I'm asking poorly, he said with frustration. What I mean to say is, Gabriella placed her fingers gently against his lips. I understand what you're asking, Wade Irwin. His hand captured hers, pulling it away from his lips but holding it against his chest where she could feel his heart pounding. And your answer? My answer is that I came west looking for a new beginning, never dreaming I would find it in the eyes of a little girl struggling with her sewing and her father standing before me now. The tension left his body in a rush. Is that a yes, Gabriella Northcott? It's a yes, she confirmed, and then his arms were around her, lifting her off the ground as his mouth found hers in a kiss that spoke of longing finally satisfied, of hope rekindled. When he set her down, his eyes were bright with emotion. I'll speak to Reverend Thomas tomorrow. Don't you think we should tell Lily first? Gabriella asked with a laugh. Wade grinned. She's been asking when I was going to make you her ma for weeks now. They returned to the ranch with the afternoon sun gilding the landscape, hands occasionally brushing as they rode side by side, future plans spilling out between them like water from a spring. Lily's reaction to the news was everything they'd hoped, pure joy erupting in whoops and dances around the cabin. I knew it. I just knew it, she kept exclaiming, throwing herself into Gabriella's arms. Now you can teach me everything, and I'll have pretty dresses, and you can read to me every night. And what about your poor old pa? Wade asked in mock offense. Lily giggled, hugging him tightly. You won't be so grumpy now, Pa. Miss Gabriella makes you smile. Wade's eyes met Gabriella's over his daughter's head. That she does, little one, that she does. The autumn weeks flew by in a whirlwind of preparations. Gabriella sold her shop to Mrs. Peterson's daughter, who had shown promise as a seamstress. She kept her sewing equipment, planning to continue taking commissions from home while teaching Lily. The cabin underwent transformations as well. Wade and several neighbors added a proper bedroom off the main room for the newlyweds, allowing Lily to keep her loft. Gabriella sewed curtains and quilts, bringing color and softness to the rustic space. Their wedding day dawned clear and crisp in late October. The ceremony at the small white church in Silverdale was attended by seemingly the entire community. Gabriella wore a dress of ivory silk she'd been saving for a special occasion, embellished with her own fine embroidery. Wade looked uncomfortable but handsome in a new suit, while Lily beamed in her role as flower girl, wearing the Sunday dress Gabriella had made her. Never thought I'd be doing this again, Wade whispered as they stood before Reverend Thomas. Nor I, Gabriella admitted softly. Life has unexpected trails. Glad yours led to us, he replied, squeezing her hand. The celebration afterward was joyful food contributed by neighbors, music, dancing, and well wishes from friends old and new. As evening approached, the couple prepared to leave for their wedding night at the hotel in town, a rare luxury Wade had insisted upon. Lily clung to Gabriella before they left. You're really my ma now, in every way that matters, Gabriella assured her, stroking her hair. I'll be home tomorrow and we'll be a family properly. Promise, cross my heart, Gabriella said, drawing the sign over her chest. Wade lifted Lily into his arms. Be good for Mrs. Peterson tonight. We'll bring you a treat from town tomorrow. As they rode toward Silverdale in the wagon, Gabriella leaned against Wade's solid shoulder. "Are you happy?" she asked. He wrapped an arm around her, pulling her closer. "More than I thought possible again," he admitted. "You've brought light back to our home, Gabriella." "You and Lily gave me something I never expected to find," she replied, "a place to truly belong." Their wedding night was a tender discovery of each other, initial shyness giving way to deep connection. Wade's hands, so capable on the ranch, proved gentle in their exploration of her body. Gabriella, who had resigned herself to spinsterhood in the aftermath of Boston's tragedy, found joy in surrender to this man who had claimed her heart so unexpectedly. "I love you," he whispered in the darkness, his voice rough with emotion. "Never thought I'd say those words to another woman." "I love you too," she answered, tracing the contours of his face. "And I'll strive every day to be worthy of the trust you and Lily have placed in me. You already are," he assured her, sealing the promise with a kiss, life as Mrs. Wade Irwin brought challenges and joys Gabriella could never have anticipated. The ranch demanded hard work from dawn to dusk, but there was satisfaction in shared purpose. She learned to manage the household accounts, preserve food for winter, and even assist with calving in the spring. Her sewing skills brought in additional income through commissions from townspeople and neighboring ranches. Most rewarding was her relationship with Lily. The girl flourished under Gabriella's guidance, developing into a capable young lady who could both ride a horse like a cowhand and sew a fine seam. Together, they planted a vegetable garden and flower beds around the cabin, bringing color and fresh food to their table. Winter brought them closer as a family, long evenings spent by the fire with Gabriella reading aloud while Wade carved wooden animals for Lily or repaired tack. Sometimes he would play the harmonica, a skill Gabriella hadn't known he possessed until after they were married. "My secret talent," he'd explained with a wink. "Didn't want to scare you off before I'd secured your hand." Spring arrived with new life calves in the pastures, seedlings in the garden, and the discovery that Gabriella was expecting a child of her own, a baby. Lily exclaimed when they told her, touching Gabriella's still flat stomach with wonder. "I'm going to be a big sister." Wade's reaction had been wordless, simply gathering Gabriella in his arms, his face buried in her neck as his shoulders shook with emotion. Later, alone in their bedroom, he placed a reverent hand on her abdomen. "I never thought I'd have this chance again," he admitted. "After Catherine died, I figured it would just be Lily and me forever." "Life has a way of surprising us," Gabriella said, covering his hand with her own. "Are you pleased?" "Pleased doesn't begin to describe it," he said, his voice husky. "Terrified, overwhelmed, grateful, but mostly just in awe of you, my love." The pregnancy progressed through the summer and into fall. Gabriella's body changed, growing rounded with new life as she continued to manage the household and teach Lily. Wade watched over her like a hawk, insisting she rest more and hiring a local boy to help with chores so she wouldn't overexert herself. "I'm with child, not made of glass," she protested one evening as he took mending from her hands. "Humor me," he replied, kissing her forehead. "I nearly lost Catherine and Lily during her birth, can't bear the thought of any risk to you." Understanding his fear, Gabriella agreed to a compromise. She would rest more and accept help, but continue with the lighter aspects of her routine to prevent boredom and worry. As her time drew near, Wade insisted on bringing in a midwife to stay at the ranch. Mrs. Leighton was a sturdy woman in her 50s who had delivered most of the county's children. "Your husband's taking no chances," she told Gabriella with approval. "First-time mothers need watching, especially those who won't admit when they're tired." The labor began on a crisp December morning, just over a year after their wedding. Lily was sent to a neighbor's home, while Wade paced the cabin like a caged mountain lion, banished from the bedroom by Mrs. Leighton. "I should be with her," he argued, wincing at Gabriella's muffled cry from behind the door. "You'll only be underfoot," the midwife insisted. "Best thing you can do is keep the fire hot and water boiling." The hours stretched endlessly, winter darkness falling as Gabriella's labor intensified. Wade sat with his head in his hands, praying fervently in a way he hadn't since Catherine's death. Just before midnight, a new cry pierced the night, the indignant wail of a newborn taking its first breath. Wade was on his feet instantly, frozen in place until Mrs. Leighton opened the door with a broad smile. "Come meet your son, Mr. Irwin." Wade entered the room with uncharacteristic hesitation. Gabriella lay propped against pillows, tired but radiant, a small bundle cradled in her arms. She looked up at him with tears of joy streaming down her face. "Wade, come see, he's perfect." He approached the bed on unsteady legs, sinking down beside her. She tilted the bundle to reveal a tiny red face, eyes screwed shut, a shock of dark hair plastered to his head. "A boy," Wade whispered in awe, touching a finger to his son's cheek. "We have a son." "William," Gabriella said softly, "after your father, if that suits you." Wade nodded, emotion clogging his throat. "William Wade Irwin." He looked from the baby to his wife, love overwhelming him. "Thank you, my love, for everything, Mrs. Leighton discreetly left the room, allowing the new parents their private moment of wonder. "Are you disappointed?" Wade asked later as Gabriella nursed the infant. "That it wasn't a girl?" She looked at him in surprise. "Why would I be disappointed? Thought you might want a daughter." "Someone to teach all your womanly arts to," Gabriella smiled. "I already have Lily for that, and who's to say this little one won't be the first of several? Perhaps we'll have daughters yet." Wade's face softened with love and pride. "You're remarkable, Gabriella Irwin." "Strongest woman I've ever known." "Not so strong," she countered. "Just fortunate in finding where I belong." Morning brought Lily home, her excitement barely contained as she tiptoed into the bedroom to meet her brother. "He's so tiny," she whispered in awe. "Was I ever that small, Pa?" "Even smaller," Wade told her, pulling her close to his side. "You were early and we worried about you, but you were a fighter from the start." Lily touched William's tiny fingers with wonder. "I'm going to teach him everything when he gets bigger, how to ride and fish and read." "I'm counting on it," Gabriella told her. "He'll need his big sister to show him the way." The girl beamed with importance. "Can I hold him?" Wade helped her settle in a chair, arranging her arms properly before placing the baby carefully in her embrace. Gabriella watched them with her heart full to bursting, this family that had formed around her so unexpectedly from a chance encounter on a dusty trail. As Christmas approached, the little family settled into new routines. Neighbors came bearing gifts for the baby and meals for the parents. The cabin was decorated with evergreen boughs and red berries, filling the air with the scent of pine. On Christmas Eve, with William sleeping peacefully in his cradle and Lily nestled against Wade's side by the fire, Gabriella reflected on the journey that had brought them together. "What are you thinking about?" Wade asked, noticing her thoughtful expression as she worked on a tiny pair of booties. "About fate," she replied. "How a wrong turn on a trail led me to your door that day." "Wasn't fate," Wade said with conviction, "was providence." "Perhaps," she agreed with a smile. "All I know is that when I saw Lily struggling with that needle and thread, something inside me recognized where I belonged even before I consciously knew it." "She needed a mother's hands," Wade said softly, recalling Gabriella's whispered words that first day. "And I needed you, though I was too stubborn to admit it right away." "And I needed both of you," Gabriella completed the circle, "to remind me that life continues after loss, that new beginnings can be found in the most unexpected places." Lily looked up from her book of Christmas stories. "Are you talking about how we became a family?" "Yes, sweetheart," Gabriella confirmed. "It's my favorite story," Lily declared. "Even better than the ones in my book." Wade smiled, reaching across to take Gabriella's hand. "Mine too, little one, mine too." As snow began to fall softly outside, blanketing the ranch in pristine white, the family drew closer together in the warm cabin. A seamstress from Boston, a rancher who'd known both love and loss, a girl who'd grown wise beyond her years, and a baby born of new beginnings. Their story, woven together from separate threads of sorrow and hope, had created something stronger and more beautiful than any of them could have created alone. "Merry Christmas," Wade murmured, leaning over to kiss Gabriella tenderly. "Merry Christmas, my love," she replied, her heart full with the certainty that she had found her true home at last. 5 years later, the Irwin Ranch had flourished almost beyond recognition. Additional acreage had been purchased, the cattle herd had doubled, and the cabin had expanded into a proper house with 4 bedrooms, a dedicated sewing room for Gabriella, and a wide porch wrapping around 3 sides. Lily, now 13, had blossomed into a confident young woman who excelled at the town school and helped Gabriella with her younger siblings William, now 5, with his father's serious demeanor and love of the outdoors, and 3-year-old Catherine, named for Wade's first wife, a spirited girl with her mother's deft fingers and artistic eye. Gabriella's sewing business had evolved as well. What began as occasional commissions had grown into a small but profitable enterprise, creating fine garments for the wealthy in Denver. Her designs, shipped by stage and rail, had developed a reputation for quality and elegance that bridged her Boston training with Western practicality. Wade had changed too. The grief-hardened man Gabriella had first encountered had softened, though he remained as strong and determined as ever. He laughed more readily, participated in community affairs, and had even been persuaded to serve on the town council. On a warm spring evening, as they sat on the porch watching William and Catherine chase fireflies while Lily sketched in her journal, Wade took Gabriella's hand. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked quietly. "Giving up your independence to take on a ready-made family and a hardscrabble ranch?" Gabriella looked at him in surprise. "What brings this question after all these years?" Wade shrugged. "Letter came today from that fancy department store in Denver. They're offering you a position designing ladies' wear for their establishment." "You opened my mail?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "It was addressed to both of us," he said defensively. "Mrs. and Mr. Gabriella Irwin figured it was important," she laughed softly. "And so you've been worrying all day about me running off to Denver for fame and fortune." He didn't join her laughter. "It's a good opportunity, Gabriella, better money than you make now and recognition for your talent." She turned in her chair to face him fully. "Wade Irwin, after all these years, do you still not understand what matters to me?" His eyes met hers, uncertainty lurking in their depths. "Just want you to have everything you deserve." "I have everything I want right here," she said firmly, gesturing to their home and children. "This is the life I chose, and I choose it again every single day." She squeezed his hand. "Though I'm touched by your willingness to consider my ambitions." Relief washed over his face. "So I can tell them no." "We can tell them no," she corrected, "but I'd like to suggest an alternative. Perhaps they would accept designs sent from here with seasonal visits to Denver. That way I could expand my work without sacrificing what matters most." Wade considered this. "That seems reasonable. You would be willing to manage things here when I travel," he nodded. "We'd make it work." "Family always does." Gabriella leaned over to kiss him, still feeling the same thrill after 6 years of marriage. Family indeed. Later that night, after the children were tucked in bed, Wade and Gabriella stood on the porch under a canopy of stars, his arms wrapped around her from behind as they gazed at the land that had become their shared legacy. "Remember that first night you stayed in our cabin?" he asked, his breath warm against her ear. "Of course. Lily fell asleep against me while I read to her, and you watched us from your chair by the fire." "That was the moment," he confessed. "The moment I knew I wanted you in our lives permanently. You looked so right with her, like you belonged there." Gabriella turned in his arms, and now, his eyes, silver in the moonlight, held hers with the same intensity that had captivated her from the beginning. "Now I know it with even more certainty. You were meant to find us that day, Gabriella. Meant to whisper those words about a mother's hands that somehow broke through all my defenses. And you were meant to let me in, despite your fear," she replied. "We healed each other, Wade, and built something beautiful in the process." He nodded, pulling her closer. "Something that will last long after we're gone." As if to emphasize his point, a light appeared in Lily's upstairs window, the young woman still awake, perhaps reading or working on her latest sewing project under Gabriella's tutelage. "She's so much like you now," Wade observed. "Has your determination, your eye for beauty?" She has your strength, Gabriella countered, and your loyalty, the best of both of us, he agreed with pride. Gabriella rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. I never imagined this life, you know. When I was a girl in Boston, I dreamed of fine houses and society balls. Disappointed? He asked with a hint of teasing, knowing her answer. Profoundly grateful, she corrected. For wrong turns on dusty trails that lead to weathered cabins where little girls struggle with needle and thread. Wade chuckled, the sound rumbling through his chest. Poetic tonight, aren't you? Must be the moonlight, she replied with a smile. Or perhaps just the overwhelming contentment of knowing exactly where I belong. His kiss was gentle, a promise renewed with each passing day. Welcome home, Gabriella Irwin. Welcome home. As they stood together under the vast western sky, the ranch stretching out before them, the land that had witnessed their love story unfold, Gabriella thought of all the twists of fate that had led her to this moment. The devastating fire in Boston that had stolen her first life, but ultimately guided her toward her true one. The chance encounter with a struggling child that had opened the door to motherhood. The gruff, grieving man who had become her partner, protector, and passionate love. From tragedy had come triumph. From loss had come abundant life. From a single whispered observation, she needs a mother's hands, had come a family bound together by choice rather than merely blood, stronger for the challenges they had faced and overcome together. And as Wade led her back inside to their home filled with the sleeping breaths of their children, Gabriella knew with absolute certainty that some trails, though unexpected, lead exactly where the heart is meant to go.